Welcome to the College Admission TV Presidential Podcast. We sit down with passionate leaders in education for their thoughts and insights in today's world. We are excited to have as our guest Dr. Glynis Fitzgerald, president of Alvernia University in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Well, I always love to start off with your journey, and I'd love to learn who are the mentors that helped shape your path to the presidency?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So mentors that shaped my path to the presidency really started when I first arrived at college as a first-generation college student. And that journey is something we can talk about as well. But when I got to my university, I got involved in some of the activities on campus. And one thing was the college radio station. And after I'd been there for about a year, maybe a year and a half, the advisor to the radio station reached behind him at his desk, pulled out his dissertation, handed it to me and said, "There's one of these in you." And until that moment, it had never occurred to me to be a college professor or to even think about what was after my first 4 years of college. And he really just opened my eyes to the possibilities of what my life could look like and how it could look differently from maybe I had the small box I had created for myself as I was thinking about college and thinking about careers. So Doc Christensen gets all the credit for launching me into believing that I could work on a PhD, I could achieve the kinds of dreams that I didn't know I could have. I didn't know I was entitled to have.
Well, you've got a great voice, and I think you've also taken that voice to speech communications major. You just mentioned radio. You know, you teach classes. Are you still putting that voice to good use? Are you still teaching? You still doing any radio?
No radio, but I am, and not really teaching in a traditional sense, but I do spend as much as I can with our new faculty. A lot of the faculty at Alvernia are coming from a professional world where they have been in their field for many years and are now coming to be professors. So I like to spend time with them, kind of helping them see that transition from the professional workplace to what a college freshman looks like, who might ultimately be ready to be in the profession, but it's going to be 4 or 6 years later, and we need to get them there. So I spend a lot of time with those faculty members. So that's how I get to still use my voice in the teaching space. But just this morning, I spent an hour with our first year students who are also first gen, and really spent a lot of time talking to them about what it looks like. Even 30 years later, not much has changed in what it looks like to be a first generation student. And so hearing what they need from the university, hearing how I could help them in their journey, those opportunities I really cherish.
What's the biggest challenge in helping a faculty member that is coming from that business professional side and moving into that faculty role where now they're teaching students?
Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle is that they say, "Oh, I wouldn't hire this person." Like, well, of course you wouldn't. They're freshmen. They have 4, 5, 6 years to learn how to be a nurse or a PT or a PA. And so it's your opportunity to really engage with them over those 4 years to become the professional that you would hire. But they don't start out that way. And we really need to be patient and give them the time to grow into the professionals that they will ultimately be.
So what's the number one question that you get from first generation students?
How to do it, really. I think that first generation students today really are facing that imposter syndrome in quite a real way. I think all first year students to some degree feel like they don't belong, but especially those first generation students feel like, everyone's looking for them to fail. And at Alvernia, we're looking for ways to help them succeed. And we want to reach out and say, we're here for you. Ask for help. Asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It isn't a sign that you don't belong. It's a sign that we can help you move forward. We believe that everyone we accept is a student that we will also graduate. And so along that way, we need to really help them to believe that we wouldn't have accepted them if we didn't think they could complete their degree programs with us. But it's a struggle.
Yeah, and I'd imagine, how do you make sure that students feel like they belong? And
Mhm.
how do you make sure that not only do they feel like they belong, but how do you make sure that they engage, and that they persist? Because as you mentioned, especially freshmen, I think many, if not all of us, can say, we were nervous. We weren't sure what we were getting into. So how do you make sure that as an institution, Alvernia embraces those students and says, hey, get in the mix, get involved, and make sure they feel belong?
Well, I think the one thing that we do that's really special is, we collect so much data on a student as they're applying, and then don't do much with it traditionally, don't do much with it afterward. What we've started to do is really mine that data to find that student that was the star in their musical. And we have the sophomore and junior and senior musical students reach out to that student and say, hey, come to auditions. We'd like to see you there. So using the data that we already have, we reach out instead of just expecting that a student is going to show up at an event or feel comfortable walking into that room with all the people who look like they belong and I don't, right? So we also do some buddying programs, bring a friend nights and things like that, where at least two freshmen can walk in together and not feel like they're alone in the experience. So they get an extra t-shirt if they show up with someone, or an extra ice cream sundae if they, bring two more friends from the dorm, those kinds of things that really just intentionally say, you belong with us and we want you to be a part of our activities, clubs, sports, religious activities, etc.
So now, I oftentimes hear presidents and senior administrators talk about meeting students where they are.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a popular phrase, if you will, nowadays. I think you're probably maybe more well positioned than a lot of presidents because of your experience of having over 20 years of experience as senior vice president and provost. Mm-hmm. So how do you make sure Alvernia meets students where they are, and what does that mean to you?
Well, I think we define it a bit differently than other universities because we literally go where they are. So we have campuses in Philadelphia, in community colleges, and in churches. So a student can just go into their local church and take bachelor's level classes in an environment where they're already comfortable. They can take our bachelor's level courses at the community college that they just graduated from, where they already know how to park and they already know where to go. So we literally go to where they are. We're really trying to, in Pottsville, in Philadelphia, and other locations that we identify that are lacking in some of the direct opportunities for education, and saying, here, you don't have to come all the way to Reading. We know not everyone's going to want to move on campus. It's a beautiful campus and we hope everyone does. But realistically, Pottsville, though just 45 minutes away, it feels like, days away for the people that live in Pottsville. So don't have to come to Reading. We'll come to you. We have a beautiful location where it feels like an Alvernia campus. It looks like an Alvernia campus, but it's comfortable. It's a couple blocks from where they work. It's a couple blocks from their high school. And in doing that, they can then provide service in their own community. They can do internships in their own community. And so we really go to where they are, differently than saying, once you're here, we get you where you are, right? So we literally go where they are.
How do we make sure that students are career ready, especially when we look at jobs today, and there's going to be a certain number of jobs that don't even exist in 5 or 10 years. And then on the flip side of that, jobs that exist in 10 years may not be here today. So how do you make sure that students are prepared?
Well, it's the conversation that we have very often right now around AI, right? And all the jobs that are going to go away because AI is going to take all our jobs. What I like to think about is the humanity that's going to be needed to shape out the rest of that function. AI can do certain things, but it can't replace the humanities, right? And so I see this as the true value of a liberal arts curriculum. Now, our liberal arts curriculum is married to a very skills-based curriculum at the same time. But by giving the student both, they get the skills to do a job, to be a great nurse, to be an incredible accountant, but then they also get that liberal arts approach that says, I can think, I can read, I can ask intelligent questions that will help me regardless of how my career changes in the next 3 years or 15 years. So it gives them that grounding to know how to ask questions, to have the moral courage to ask the right questions, and then provide that skill that they also get from our education. So I think it's the best of both that will prepare them well for whatever the future holds for them.
How are you engaging alumni today to really promote the institution, to promote programs, and really give students a sense that, hey, this is the place for me?
Yeah. So just again, this morning with the event, we had 100 alumni who were first gen who have volunteered to be mentors to these students and to be that person that they can ask those questions that they might not want to ask someone else. But I think we do that across the curriculum. We bring in professionals who are in nursing, who are in PT, AT, in their careers, and have them in the classroom really demonstrating what they've been successful at, what they wish they would have learned along the way. So they're engaged in multitudes of ways. We have a very young alumni base. We're only here since 1958. So we don't have the history that many universities have, but what we lack in history, we make up for in passion from those alumni who really want to make it easier for the next generation. And through that, they're really committed to improving our facilities. In the last several years, we've gone from 7,000 square feet of nursing space to 55,000 square feet. And those alumni are coming back and saying, this is what you need. This is what will make it for a good learning environment. These are the things I missed by not having it. And so having those continual conversations makes the next educational experience better for the next generation of professionals. So our alumni are really key to how we think about moving forward and how we think about improving our facilities. That's really been a key for us these last couple of years.
Well, and how exciting is it as the president to be able to give tours, whether it be business leaders, whether it be students, families, but to be able to give a tour with new facilities.
Yes. Yeah. I can't tell you, Bradley, how really, really fortunate we are to, in this environment, to be building new, to creating new programs, to augmenting existing programs in such a meaningful way. Our new OT floor is coming up in January. It's a $20 million project that we're dedicating to really improving the experience for our students, for our faculty, for their scholarship. So that will also propel the scholarship that our faculty can do as we grow into being a nationally recognized professional doctorate program. So we'll be able to do more in that respect as well with new facilities. It's a great time to be at Alvernia because of the commitment we've had from both state and federal and local support for our new facilities, and then the generosity of our philanthropic sponsors. We've really been able to match $1 for $1 with public money and private money. And that, I think, has really allowed us to grow these new facilities in such exciting ways for our students.
So how do you successfully fundraise?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really been that key of matching public dollars with private dollars. Just like, NPR is going to say, we'll match you $1 for $1, right? We've been able to do that here. And that, I think, is unique to Alvernia in many respects. So far, we're in just now launched a $70 million campaign. We've already raised $54 million of that. And of that $54 million, it really is $1 for $1 public and private money. So I think that we have been able to tell the community that we are here to improve the community. We're here to make a commitment to being in our downtown Reading. We could have built a building here on campus by here on campus, I mean, we have our historical main campus, which is about 7 miles from the downtown. We could have taken down some local houses, taken them off the tax rolls, built new buildings, but instead we moved 7 miles down into the heart of the city, took a building that had been previously pretty much abandoned. There was a couple programs going on in the building, but 260,000 square feet we purchased for $1 million, and we put our programs there. And in doing so, we've been able to make a real commitment to economic and workforce development in the city, and given us this amazing amount of floor space to play with for new programs.
So where do you find your students? I mean, obviously, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure within an hour and a half drive, regional communities, but how do you get the Alvernia name outside of the state and across the country and even internationally?
So a few ways, and this podcast will hopefully help in that respect as well. Our athletics really recruit well for us. So we've added some new sports, especially in women's hockey and women's wrestling, that really recruit well for us on a national and international basis. We have some students here this year from Sweden and from Canada who came to play on our hockey team. So adding those new sports has really helped us recruit on a larger basis. We added football 4 years ago. That helped us recruit more nationally. But I think also internationally, we've truly made a commitment as an interfaith Franciscan university to say to other countries, you can come to Alvernia and celebrate your faith in an environment that is safe and protected, right? So we've been able to grow our international student population from just 4 students 4 years ago to over 120 this year, with the idea that they, in this primarily coming from Muslim countries, saying, we respect your needs. We understand the way that you pray and the way that you celebrate your spirit. And so we've provided them with the facilities and the time and the space to do so. And that has helped. It's helped us recruit internationally, but it's also helped our domestic students really see the beauty that comes from the diversity that we get from different faiths on our campus, and figuring out a way in this environment that we can all celebrate whatever faith or no faith together in a safe environment has been great for all of our students, domestic and international. It's been a true pleasure for me when I can see our Muslim students together with our Catholic students and our nuns, as to say that they are learning from each other, having really meaningful conversations with one another. When you come to our cafeteria, you don't see groups in separate. You see groups coming together. You see students asking in the dorms to live with people of different faiths. And I think that provides just a tiny hope for the world, that we can have these meaningful conversations, sometimes really difficult conversations, but in a way that's respectful. And I think that's unique for Alvernia.
Absolutely. So how do you define student success?
Yeah, graduation, really, ultimately. We believe that every student we accept, we should find a way to help them through to finishing, right, through to the graduation stage. That means we need to be a little more selective in our acceptance, and we're happily growing in this climate. Very proud of that, and even in the growth, we've increased our qualifications for acceptance, because I don't want to bring someone in, have them get through a year or two, leave with debt. I think it's worse to accept them and have them leave with no degree in debt than it is to never accept them in the first place. And so we've been very deliberate about ensuring that both financially and skills-based, the students that we accept are going to succeed here. So everything else that we do is to support that. We create a community of care. We have social workers and other students from our counseling program that are serving as mentors and supports. There's at least 5 people who touch each freshman to say, I'm here, I want to help you through. And so that drops off as they get more successful through their program. By the time they're juniors, they're helping the freshmen. But that community of supporting each other through graduation is really making a difference in our retention, and hopefully it will play through to our graduation rates in the near future. Because when we want a student to find their way through our curriculum, it means we need to support them through all those, what we might see as minor issues, right? The $200 new tires that you need, but students will drop out for needing $200 for their tires. So we've put in place funding programs that are immediate, same day. If you approach one of these 5 people on our campus to say, I've got this hardship, can you help me? There's someone right there that can help you the same day and make sure that that obstacle doesn't derail you, but helps you propel forward and make sure that they have all those supports. So it's a combination of making sure we've accepted the right students, making sure we have financial planners who are helping them with 4 years of, or 4 or 6, depending on their academic program, making sure that they have that picture of what those 4 or 6 years look like, not just funding their first semester, but making sure that they have a financial plan to get through to graduation. So we put all those other kinds of supports in place. And in all of that, success means that they're successfully into their careers with as little debt.
Yeah, and there's a number of elements that you mentioned that are very distinctive, and to make sure that a student can stay the course and persist and persist comfortably, knowing that, hey, this is affordable.
Exactly right. Exactly. I've often thought of university life as sort of a braided river, right? Some students are just going to go straight through without any obstacles, and they're going to be great no matter what. But more and more students are having little obstacles in their way, and sometimes really big obstacles. And the more we can help them see themselves across those obstacles, the more likely they are to be successful. But no one does it alone. And so we need that community of care that's going to help them regardless of what that is. It financial? Is it spiritual? Is it, students' mental health issues that they face? We've brought counselors into campus through Penn Medicine. That has been a real opportunity for our students to have that support on campus. So really addressing all the needs that they might have to get them successfully to graduation.
Yeah, and I think that ability to know that, hey, you're not alone and you have a number of different outlets to be able to reach out and have people support you. Because I would imagine, that could be a path that might be easy to take sometimes, that lonely path, thinking, well, I've got this problem. I don't want to share with anybody. I'm fine. I'll figure it out. Before you know it, you're down a pretty deep hole where you can't get out of. So that ability to be able to engage with someone and do it immediately with almost any challenge is critical.
That's right. That's right. And that they know that person is there already. So it's not a stranger that they're walking into and kind of meekly saying, I've got this issue. They know their navigators from the time they're accepted. So that whole first summer, they're forming relationships with their navigators. So when they finally come to campus, they already have a friendly face and they know who they can go to. That person won't solve all their problems, but they will know who to get them to. And those people are in their dorms and in their teams and in their, clubs, so that there's always a touch point that they can reach out to.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that word, navigators. That's great.
Yeah, we're proud of them.
So where do you see Alvernia in the next 10 years?
Yeah, well, the good news is we'll be here in 10 years, right? In higher ed, that's not a known thing these days. And but I really feel that we made some very difficult but very smart financial decisions early in the pandemic. And in doing so, we've really decided that we are going to grow our way out of financial constraints. And so by adding new academic programs, by building new facilities, we've really been able to make Alvernia much, much stronger than it might have been had we kind of kept our head down and stuck to the knitting and all those phrases that you hear a lot. We just widely said, let's try it. And we've been really fortunate with the relationships we've built with our community partners to be able to fund these new ventures. So I think we'll continue to grow. I know that we will have more alumni out successful in their careers who will continue to give back to the university, and will continue to grow into those locations where we see a need for higher education that we can address. So I'm excited to see where we go, but the growth is certainly a trajectory for us.
Well, President Glynis Fitzgerald, hey, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate the conversation.
This has been really fun. I really enjoyed talking with you and sharing a little bit about what makes Alvernia so unique. And I appreciate the conversation and time with you.
Absolutely.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the College Admission TV Presidential Podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll bring you another insightful conversation with a distinguished leader in higher education.